Okay, the first thing we're going to talk about here is concept of design, and I'm going to show you how to design a certain pattern. But as you can see, most of your stained glass nowadays is using patterns. There's another way to do stained glass. It's called Old English, where you cut a piece and you fit it in and then get it in there, and then you cut the next piece and fit it in. This way, using a pattern, you can cut all the pieces and fit them together like making your own jigsaw puzzle. But in the case of this rose, this is basically the pattern that I've taken it from, but you can see that the rose, I've gone ahead and changed it so that it only has 3 leaves instead of a whole bunch of straggly leaves hanging down here. And you can see that you can make changes according to taste, where I've taken the pattern since I made this rose and I've smoothed out this line a little bit, because it just didn't make sense to me to have to cut this extra curve when you didn't need it. Now also, you can still have a good rose if you take this piece off. So there's a lot you can do just according to your own taste. Now what I'm going to show you to do is a pattern so that you can practice making patterns and coming up with concept of design. We're going to do this so that you can learn how to cut the glass also. Can you see this okay, camera girl? Okay. We're going to design this pattern here. And in using your, in making patterns, you're going to need to use butcher paper or cardstock. But in coming up with a concept of design, you can just use a plain piece of type paper. First, we're going to make an oval. Now, an oval is a pretty standard stained glass design, and some people think you have to use a computer to make an oval. Actually, you can make one without using a computer, and I'm going to show you the trick to do that. First of all, take your paper and just crease it, like so, and then take it the other way and pull it opposite. But don't worry about lining up the corners. Line up the crease. Now what you've done is you've made a 90-degree line in the paper. And just to help us for clarity, we're going to go ahead and draw on that line so to help you to see it better. Now these aren't going to be lines we're actually going to use. These are just guidelines for our project. Okay, we're going to make an oval, and this oval, we're going to see how wide this one was. It is 6 inches wide. So you'll take the paper, and another little trick that you'll need to learn is, you know how with a tape measure, usually when you measure using a tape measure, you measure it from the very end, but sometimes this little toggle's bent up or broken, or it's just not in the right place. So what I like to do is measure from an inch marker and then just count out from there, or else measure from the 1 inch mark and remember to subtract an inch. So to go 3 inches from the center from the 1 inch line, you go out to the 4 inch line and make a little mark. And you can even do it the opposite way. Go from the 4 inch line down to the 1 inch line. So, 3 and 3 makes 6. Now the height of our old oval is 8 inches. So we'll do the same thing in the other direction, only going 4 inches each way. Can you still see my hands, camera girl? Mm-hmm. Okay, go to the 5 inch mark for the 4 inches. Remember to take away that 1. Start with a 5 inch mark, go down to the 1. Okay, so now you have the guidelines of how you're going to make that oval. And you think that you're just going to sit down and draw it. You don't have to draw the whole thing. You only have to draw one curve in it. So pick the side that you like to draw from, and starting out straight, go out from there and kind of work on your curve until it's one that you like. And that's pretty close. I kind of want to take a little bit of the bulge out right there, so we'll just erase it and redo it until it's where you like it to be. Okay, that's actually pretty good. Okay, now what you got to do is fold it over. I don't know if you can see through the paper here, but usually if you have enough light, you can see the trace and kind of do what you did in kindergarten. Learn to trace that line like so. A lot of what you do in stained glass is stuff that you learned in kindergarten. I just open it back up and retrace that line and follow it around like so. Okay, now we're going to fold it the other direction and do the same thing with that half of an oval, and I've got to get it to where I can see it. I could use better lighting down in this basement. I work in my basement because it's a room that I don't mind getting a little bit messy and dirty. And you do need a place to do stained glass. You can do it in your kitchen, but there's a lot of cleanup and you got to be careful not to leave shards of glass on the floor and in the carpet. We'll talk more about the materials that you need. Okay, it's coming out pretty nice. Pretty good way to make an oval. Now, this is a small one. If you remember that picture of the airplane that we showed you in the opening, that oval was made the same way. So you can do any size of it. Now what we want to do also is put kind of a diamond shape in the center of that. Let's see how big I drew this. It's 4 inches wide, so we'll take this same oval, and I'll use a yardstick here to mark it so that you can see what I'm doing better. We'll go 2 inches on each side. Make a little tick. And then it's, let's do 3 inches. And again 3 inches. Now all you've got to do is connect up the lines. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to ask the camera girl to go over to my shelves next to me, and there should be a plate over there, a glass plate. Thank you. All right, now remember, these lines we're not even going to use. You can go ahead and erase them if you want, or just remember in your head that we're not going to use them. Now to help you learn to cut glass a little better, instead of having these cut straight, we're going to add a little curve to it. So just start at one end and kind of draw freehand a little curve there. And we'll do the same here. So you're going to get plenty of practice cutting straight lines. But learning how to cut little curves is something that you need to know. Remember, we're not going to use those straight lines. We're going to get rid of those right there. Now, as odd as it may seem, sometimes when you do a project and you need to draw a circle, rather than get a compass out and drawing a circle, you might look at something and say, hey, that plate is about the size that I need, or the curve that I need. You might see something around the house. So we're just going to take this plate and we're going to draw a little curve right through here. Just a little to break it up, to give you an idea. So now we have concept of design. And we're going to transfer this into a pattern later on. A part of your concept of design is going to be, when you look at your design, you're going to need to make sure that each piece is going to be cuttable. For example, where this tongue is sticking out, if this line hadn't been drawn here, then this piece of glass would have been practically impossible to cut, and it would have had a point here. The only way to cut that would be with a glass saw. But if you had left it like that, you'd have a weak spot here and would probably end up getting a crack. Anytime that there's a point, like here on these horns, you can see that I've had to draw lines here, lines there, just to make sure that they match up. There's a little line even right here. So in the head, I put an eye in it, and you can't just put an eye in the middle of this piece of glass, so I've had to divide this part of the head into two pieces, which I would have had to do anyway, because this piece here would have been practically impossible to cut. So just keep that in mind. Now this dragon design, I'm not an artist, and what it is I found a picture of a mahjong tile on the internet, and I blew it up and then traced it and then traced it again and just kept making changes to it until I came up with the idea that I wanted, and made sure that each piece of glass was going to be cuttable. We're talking about the concept of design. You'll remember that I mentioned the importance of planning for structure. Now, even with a sun catcher, structure is important. Now with the rose, we're going to worry about structure too, and we're going to put a jump ring and we're going to put it right here on this seam and hang it from that.